Now she was priceless. The bullet shattered the window 3 inches from her head. Lisa dropped to the floor on instinct, the champagne glass she'd been holding exploding against the marble. Young Chul was already moving, his hand inside his jacket, his body covering hers, as a second shot punched through the glass and embedded itself in the wall where she had been standing. "Stay down," he said, his voice deadly calm. The penthouse erupted into controlled chaos. Young Chul's men materialized from doorways, weapons drawn, securing exits and scanning rooftops. Someone killed the lights. The city beyond the shattered window glittered with indifferent beauty. Lisa's heart was hammering, but her hands were steady. 3 months of training had rewired her nervous system. Fear was still there. She could feel it coiled in her chest like a snake, but it no longer controlled her. "Where?" young Chul asked one of his men. "Southeast, high rise across the street." Professional setup. They're already gone. Young Chul pulled Lisa to her feet, his hand firm on her arm, and led her away from the windows into the interior hallway. His face was carved from stone, but she could see something flickering behind his eyes. Not fear. Calculation. "Who?" Lisa asked. "I don't know yet," young Chul said. "But whoever it is, they just declared war." The safe room was 2 floors down, or accessible only through a hidden elevator that required both a key card and a biometric scan. Young Chul had shown it to her during her first week, a gesture that had felt like trust. Now it felt like necessity. Inside, the walls were reinforced steel disguised as wood paneling. Banks of monitors displayed feeds from every camera in the building and several blocks around it. Min Jun, young Chul's second-in-command, was already there, his fingers flying across a keyboard. "Talk to me," young Chul said. Min Jun didn't look up from the screens. Shooter was a professional. Clean setup, clean exit, no shell casings, no trace. They weren't trying to kill. If they wanted you dead, you'd be dead. This was a message. "What message?" Lisa asked. Min Jun finally looked at her, and there was something in his expression she couldn't quite read. Suspicion? Assessment? That they can reach you whenever they want. Young Chul's jaw tightened. "Pull the footage, and I want to know everyone who's been within a mile of this building in the last 72 hours. Check our payroll, find out who talked." "Already on it," Min Jun said, but his eyes flicked to Lisa again before returning to the screens. Young Chul noticed. His voice dropped to a dangerous quiet. "Something you want to say?" Min Jun hesitated. It was barely a second, but in that moment Lisa saw the crack in his loyalty. "The timing is interesting," he said carefully. 3 months ago, no one knew who Lisa was. Now suddenly, everyone does. And suddenly, we have problems we've never had before." The air in the room went cold. "Choose your next words very carefully," young Chul said. Lisa stepped forward before Min Jun could respond. "He's right," she said, and both men turned to look at her. "I'm visible now. People know I'm here. People know what I mean to your operation. That makes me a target. That makes me a liability." Young Chul's expression didn't change. "You're not a liability." "Maybe I am," Lisa said. "Maybe whoever did this thinks I'm your weakness. Maybe they think if they take me out, they take you down." "Then they don't know me very well," young Chul said, but there was something in his voice that made Lisa wonder if he was trying to convince himself as much as her. Min Jun cleared his throat. "There's something else. Jiwoo wants a meeting." The name hung in the air like a blade. Lisa had heard Jiwoo mentioned exactly 3 times in the past 3 months, always in hushed tones, always with a kind of reverence that bordered on fear. Jiwoo ran the Eastern District, controlled the ports, and had ties to government officials that made him functionally untouchable. He and young Chul had a truce, carefully maintained, mutually beneficial. Truces could be broken. When? Young Chul asked. Tonight, his club. He says it's urgent. Young Chul was quiet for a long moment, in his eyes on the monitors, watching the building's perimeter. Tell him I'll be there in an hour. He specified you come alone. That's not happening. He anticipated you'd say that, Minjun said. He's willing to allow one bodyguard, no one else. Lisa spoke before she could stop herself. I'll go with you. Both men stared at her. Absolutely not, young Chul said. Why not? I've been training for 3 months. You said I was ready. Ready for business negotiations and defensive strategy. Did not for walking into a potential trap with a man who could have us both killed on a whim. Then don't go, Lisa said. If it's that dangerous, don't go at all. Young Chul's expression softened slightly. I have to go. If Ji-woo called a meeting, it means something has shifted. I need to know what. Then you need someone you trust watching your back, Lisa said. Someone who doesn't have divided loyalties. She didn't look at Min-jun when she said it, but she felt him stiffen beside her. Young Chul studied her face for a long moment. Then he nodded. Get dressed. We leave in 30 minutes. Ji-woo's club was in a part of the city where money whispered instead of shouted. No neon signs, no velvet ropes, just an unmarked door on a quiet street and a man in a black suit who nodded once when young Chul approached. Inside, the music was low and sultry, the lighting dim enough to hide faces but bright enough to see who was watching you. Lisa walked half a step behind young Chul, her hand resting near the concealed holster under her jacket. She had never actually shot anyone. Tonight might be the night that changed. They were led through the main floor to a private room in the back. The door was heavy, soundproofed. Inside, Ji-woo was waiting. He was older than young Chul, maybe mid-50s, with silver threading through his black hair and the kind of face that gave nothing away. He wore an expensive suit and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Young Chul, he said, rising from his seat. Thank you for coming on such short notice. You made it sound urgent. It is. Ji-woo's eyes slid to Lisa. And you brought your pet. Lisa felt the insult like a slap, but she kept her expression neutral. Young Chul's hand moved slightly, a warning gesture she had learned to read. This is Lisa, young Chul said. My partner. Ji-woo's eyebrows rose. Partner. How progressive. He gestured to the chairs across from him. Please sit. They sat. Then Lisa positioned herself so she could see both Ji-woo and the door. Old habits from her former life. Always know your exits, combined with new training. Always know your targets. Ji-woo poured 3 glasses of whiskey from a crystal decanter. I wanted to speak with you face to face because what I'm about to tell you is too sensitive for phones or intermediaries. I'm listening, young Chul said. There's a man coming to the city. His name is Alexei Volkov, Russian. He connected to the Bratva in Moscow and several cartels in Eastern Europe. He's been expanding west for the past 5 years, very carefully, very strategically. He doesn't conquer. He absorbs. Young Chul's expression didn't change, but Lisa saw his hand tighten slightly on his glass. Why are you telling me this? Because he contacted me last week, Ji-woo said. He wants to meet. He wants to discuss a partnership. Wherein he specifically mentioned you. What did he say? Ji-woo took a sip of his whiskey. He said you had something that belonged to him. He wants it back. Young Chul was very still. I don't have anything of his. That's what I told him, Ji-woo said, but he seemed very certain. He said he'd be happy to discuss terms, or he could simply take what's his by force. Ji-woo's eyes flicked to Lisa again, just for a second. He seemed particularly interested in your recent acquisition. Lisa felt ice slide down her spine. He's talking about me, she said quietly. Ji-woo smiled. Smart girl, yes. Apparently, Before Martin sold you to those collectors, he'd already made a different deal with Volkov's people. He took their money, then tried to sell you twice. When the collectors showed up at the church, Volkov considered it a breach of contract. Young Chul's voice was soft and deadly. Why am I only hearing about this now? Because Volkov moves slowly. He doesn't rush. He watches, waits, gathers information. He knew you had her, but he wanted to understand the situation before making his move. Now he's ready. And the shot through my window tonight? His calling card, Jiwoo said. A demonstration. He could have killed either of you. He chose not to. That's him being polite. Young Chul leaned back in his chair, his eyes never leaving Jiwoo's face. You said he contacted you about a partnership. What did you tell him? I told him I'd think about it, Jiwoo said. Because I'm not a fool. Volkov is powerful and he has resources I don't have. But I've also worked with you for 10 years, and I know the value of stability. He paused. However, I'm a businessman. If Volkov can offer me something better than our current arrangement, I have to consider it. You're telling me you're thinking about switching sides. I'm telling you that I'm staying neutral until I see how this plays out, Jiwoo said. If you can handle Volkov, then nothing changes. But if you can't, he shrugged. I have my own people to protect. Young Chul stood. Thank you for the information. There's one more thing, Jiwoo said. Volkov wants a meeting, neutral ground, tomorrow night. He said if you don't show, he'll consider it a declaration of war. Where? The old shipyard on the east side. Midnight. Jiwoo's smile sharpened. And young Chul? He said to bring the girl. He wants to see what he paid for. They didn't speak on the drive back to the penthouse. Lisa could feel the tension radiating off young Chul like heat from a furnace. When they finally arrived, he poured himself a drink and stood at the window, the one that hadn't been shot through, staring out at the city. You should leave, he said finally. Lisa had been expecting this. No. Lisa, this isn't like Martin. Volkov is... I know what he is, Lisa said. Jiwoo made that very clear. Then you understand why you need to disappear. I can get you out of the country tonight. New identity, new life. Somewhere Volkov can't reach you. I'm not running. Young Chul turned to face her, and for the first time since she'd met him, she saw something that looked like fear in his eyes. Not for himself, for her. And you don't have a choice. Yes, I do, Lisa said. You gave me that choice 3 months ago. Stay and learn to protect myself, or run. I chose to stay. I'm not changing my mind now. This is different. Before you were safe here. Now nothing, Lisa interrupted. You think I don't know what this is? Volkov doesn't want me back because Martin sold me to him. He wants me because I'm the easiest way to hurt you. I'm your weakness. Jiwoo as good as said it. Young Chul's jaw tightened. Oh, you're not my weakness. Then prove it, Lisa said. Go to this meeting, face Volkov, and let me stand beside you when you do. If something happens to you, then I die knowing I chose my own fate, Lisa said. That's more than I had with Martin. They stared at each other across the room, and Lisa saw the moment young Chul understood that she wasn't going to back down, that she couldn't, because backing down now would mean everything she had learned, everything she had become, was for nothing. All right, he said finally, but we do this my way, with my rules. Understood? Understood. Young Chul nodded once, then pulled out his phone. Min-jun, get everyone together. We have 24 hours to prepare for war. The next day passed in a blur of preparations, weapons checks, security protocols, contingency plans stacked on top of contingency plans. Young Chul's men moved through the penthouse like ghosts, efficient and silent. Lisa spent the morning in the shooting range in the basement, the one young Chul had installed for her training. She fired until her arms ached, until the target downrange was shredded, until she could put 3 rounds in the center mass without thinking. Min-jun found her there just after noon. He stood in the doorway watching her reload, his expression unreadable. "You're getting better," he said. Lisa ejected the magazine and slid in a fresh one. "I had a good teacher." "Young Chul or me?" "Both." Min-jun walked closer, his hands in his pockets. "Can I ask you something?" Lisa lowered the gun but didn't set it down. "Go ahead." "Why are you doing this? You could be anywhere right now, living a normal life. Instead, you're here, training to fight a Russian gangster over a debt you never agreed to pay." "Because it's not about the debt," Lisa said. "It's about the principle. Martin tried to sell me. Volkov thinks he bought me. And everyone keeps acting like I'm property that can be traded and owned. I'm done with that. So this is about pride. This is about being a person," Lisa corrected. "About making sure everyone knows I decide what happens to me. Not Martin, not Volkov, me." Min-jun studied her face for a long moment. "Young Chul cares about you, more than he's cared about anyone since his mother died. You know that, right?" Lisa felt something twist in her chest. "I know. If Volkov kills you, it will destroy him." "Then we make sure Volkov doesn't kill me," Lisa said. "And if you have to kill Volkov first," Min-jun asked, "could you do that? Could you look someone in the eye and pull the trigger?" Lisa thought about Martin on the floor of the lobby, begging. She thought about the collectors who had looked at her like merchandise. She thought about Volkov sitting somewhere in this city believing he owned her. "Yes," she said, "I could." Min-jun nodded slowly. "Good. Because tonight, now you might have to." They left for the shipyard at 11. 3 cars, 12 people, enough firepower to start a small war. Lisa rode with young Chul in the middle vehicle, wearing dark tactical clothing and the kind of body armor that felt like a second skin. Young Chul had been quiet all evening, his face carved from stone, his eyes distant. Lisa wanted to say something to break the tension, but she couldn't find words that didn't sound hollow or naive. The shipyard was on the outskirts of the city, a sprawling complex of rusted cranes and abandoned warehouses that smelled like salt water and decay. They parked 100 yards from the main building and proceeded on foot, weapons drawn, every sense heightened. The warehouse Volkov had specified was at the end of a long pier. Light spilled from its broken windows, and Lisa could see shapes moving inside. A lot of shapes. More than they had anticipated. Young Chul raised his hand, and his team stopped. He turned to Lisa. "Stay close to me. If shooting starts, you run. Don't try to be a hero. Just run." Lisa wanted to argue, but she saw the look in his eyes and nodded instead. They approached the warehouse slowly. The door was open, hanging crooked on its hinges. Inside, the space had been cleared of debris and set up like a negotiating room. A table in the center, chairs on either side, portable lights casting harsh shadows on the walls. Volkov was waiting. He was tall and broad with a shaved head and a scar that ran from his left eye to his jaw. He wore an expensive coat and a smile that reminded Lisa of a shark. Behind him stood at least 20 men, all armed, all watching young Chul's team with the casual alertness of people who killed for a living. "Young Chul," Volkov said, his accent thick, but his English perfect. "Thank you for coming, and you brought Lisa. Excellent." Young Chul didn't move from the doorway. "You wanted to talk." "Talk." Volkov gestured to the table. "Please sit. We are civilized people. We can discuss this like businessmen." "I'll stand." Volkov's smile widened. "As you wish." He turned his attention to Lisa, and she felt his gaze like a physical weight. "You are more beautiful than the photographs Martin showed me. I can see why young Chul decided to keep you." "I'm not something to be kept," Lisa said, her voice steady. No? Volkov tilted his head. Martin sold you to me for $75,000. I paid him in full. That makes you my property, unless you're suggesting Martin cheated me. Martin's dead, young Chul said flatly. His debts died with him. Lisa's head snapped toward him. Martin was dead? Since when? Volkov's expression didn't change. Is he? How unfortunate. But you see, that creates a problem, because I still have a receipt. And the product I purchased was never delivered. He pulled a piece of paper from his coat and held it up. Here, see? Signed and dated, 3 days before the wedding. Lisa saw the paper, saw what looked like Martin's signature scrawled across the bottom, and felt something cold settle in her stomach. That's a fake, she said. Is it? Volkov asked. Perhaps we should ask Martin. Oh, wait, we can't, because according to young Chul, he's dead. He looked at young Chul. Convenient. No? What do you want? Young Chul asked. Volkov folded the paper and slid it back into his coat. I want what I paid for. I want Lisa. You give her to me, and we forget this unpleasantness. We can even discuss a partnership. I could use a man like you in my organization. She's not for sale. Everything is for sale, Volkov said. The only question is price. Young Chul's hand moved to his gun. Around them, Volkov's men tensed. The air crackled with the promise of violence. Now I have a better idea, Volkov said quickly. Let's ask Lisa what she wants. After all, she's the one we're discussing. He turned to her. Lisa, my dear, would you prefer to stay with young Chul, who has turned you into a weapon and put you in danger? Or would you like to come with me where you will be safe, pampered, given everything you could ever desire? Lisa felt young Chul's eyes on her, felt the weight of the moment pressing down on her shoulders. Neither, she said. Volkov's smile faltered. I'm sorry. I said neither, Lisa repeated. I don't belong to young Chul. I don't belong to you. I belong to myself. And if either of you tries to take that from me, I will burn your entire world to the ground. For a moment, no one moved. Then Volkov laughed, a genuine sound of delight. Oh, I like her. Young Chul, you have done excellent work. She has spirit. This conversation is over, young Chul said. Lisa leaves with me. If you have a problem with that, or we can settle it right now. Volkov's smile vanished. You would start a war over a woman? I would start a war over a principle, young Chul said. No one takes what's mine. And yet you just said she doesn't belong to you. She doesn't, young Chul agreed, but she chose to stand beside me. That's worth more than ownership ever could be. Volkov studied them both for a long moment. Then he sighed. Very well. I can see we will not reach an agreement tonight. But understand this. Young Chul, I always collect my debts. Always. If I cannot have Lisa, then I will take something of equal value. Your territory, your men, your life. One way or another, you will pay what is owed. Try, young Chul said. See what happens. They left the warehouse, walking backward, weapons drawn, eyes on Volkov's men until they reached the safety of the pier. Then they ran. They were halfway to the cars when the first explosion ripped through the night. The warehouse erupted in flames, on a ball of fire that turned night into day. The shockwave knocked Lisa off her feet, and she hit the ground hard, her ears ringing. Strong hands pulled her up. Young Chul, his face grim, blood running from a cut on his forehead. Move, he shouted, but she could barely hear him over the ringing. They ran for the cars, but gunfire erupted behind them. Volkov's men pouring out of the burning warehouse, shooting wildly. Young Chul's team returned fire, and the shipyard became a war zone. Lisa reached the car and dove inside. Young Chul slid in beside her, and the driver floored it, tires screaming on the pavement. Behind them, 2 more cars followed, but the third, The third exploded as a rocket-propelled grenade hit it dead center. Lisa watched through the rear window as the vehicle disintegrated, and she knew that at least 3 of young Chul's men had just died. She knew their names, had trained with them. "Go!" young Chul shouted to the driver. "Don't stop." They raced through the streets, taking random turns, heading nowhere specific, just trying to lose the pursuit vehicles that had materialized behind them. Lisa heard more gunfire, heard bullets punch through the car's armor plating, heard young Chul on his phone calling for reinforcements. And then she saw it. The muzzle flash from a rooftop ahead of them. "Stop!" she screamed, but it was too late. The driver's head exploded and the car swerved wildly. Young Chul grabbed the wheel from the back seat, trying to control it, but they were going too fast. The car jumped the curb and slammed into a building, the airbags deploying with explosive force. Lisa's head cracked against something hard, and stars exploded across her vision. She tasted blood, felt hands pulling her from the wreckage, heard young Chul shouting her name, and then she saw them, Volkov's men surrounding the car, weapons raised. They were trapped. And young Chul stood in front of her, his gun drawn, his body a shield. "You want her, you go through me." One of Volkov's men, a giant with a tattooed face, stepped forward. "Volkov says we can kill you, says it'll send a message, nothing personal." "Everything's personal," young Chul said. The giant raised his weapon, and then Min Jun appeared from nowhere and put 3 bullets in the giant's chest. The shipyard erupted into chaos again as young Chul's reinforcements arrived. The pouring out of vehicles, engaging Volkov's men in a firefight that turned the street into a killing floor. Min Jun grabbed Lisa and pulled her toward a waiting SUV, while young Chul provided covering fire. They made it to the vehicle. The door slammed shut. They were moving again, leaving the battle behind them, racing through the city toward safety. Lisa's hands were shaking. Her ears were still ringing. She could smell gunpowder and blood and smoke. "Is everyone?" she started. "Wham, we lost 6 people," Min Jun said quietly. "Maybe more. We won't know until we regroup." 6 people. Dead because of her. Because Volkov wanted something he thought he owned. Young Chul pulled her close, checking her for injuries, his hands gentle despite the violence still echoing around them. "Are you hurt?" "I'm fine," Lisa said, though she wasn't sure that was true. "We need to disappear," Min Jun said from the front seat. "Volkov just declared open war. And he'll be coming for us with everything he has." Young Chul nodded. "Take us to the safe house in the mountains. We'll regroup there, figure out our next move." Lisa pulled away from him slightly. "What about Jiwoo? You think he's still neutral after this?" Young Chul's expression went dark. "No, I think Jiwoo has already chosen his side." The safe house was 3 hours outside the city, hidden in dense forest, accessible only by a single winding road. It was small but fortified, and designed to withstand a siege. They arrived just before dawn, exhausted and bloodied, and down to half their original numbers. Young Chul's remaining men secured the perimeter while Min Jun worked his computer, trying to assess the damage. Lisa sat by the window, watching the sunrise paint the mountains gold, and tried not to think about the men who had died tonight. Young Chul found her there an hour later. He sat down beside her, close enough that their shoulders touched. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "For what?" "For all of it. For dragging you into this world. For putting you in danger. For—" "Stop," Lisa said. "You didn't drag me anywhere. I chose this. I chose to stay. Everything that happened tonight was my choice. 6 men are dead because I wouldn't give you to Volkov. 6 men are dead because Volkov is a monster who thinks people can be owned," Lisa corrected. "Don't you dare put that on yourself." Young Chul was quiet for a moment. And then, "Martin's not dead." Lisa turned to look at him. "What?" "I lied. Martin's alive. He's in a prison in Taiwan serving a life sentence for drug trafficking. I made sure of it after he came to the penthouse begging for your money. I wanted him to suffer, to understand what it means to be trapped and powerless. Young Chul met her eyes. I lied to Volkov because I wanted him to think Martin was beyond reach. I thought it would make him back down. But it didn't. No, I had just made him angrier. Lisa absorbed this information, turning it over in her mind. Martin was alive, trapped, suffering. She should feel something about that. Satisfaction, relief, something. But all she felt was empty. I need to tell you something, young Chul said, and there was a weight in his voice that made Lisa's stomach clench. About my mother. Lisa waited. I told you she was sold, that she died in a factory in Thailand. That's true. But what I didn't tell you is that I found the man who bought her. I found him 20 years later, and I killed him. Slowly. It took 3 days. Young Chul's hands clenched into fists. And when it was over, when he was finally dead, I didn't feel better. I didn't feel avenged. I just felt empty. Because killing him didn't bring her back. It didn't undo what had been done. It just made me a murderer. He looked at Lisa. I'm telling you this because I see where this is going. And I see the choice you're going to have to make. Volkov won't stop. He won't negotiate. He won't compromise. The only way to end this is to kill him. And if you do that, if you cross that line, you can never go back. You'll be like me, empty. Lisa thought about the gun in her holster, about the way it felt in her hand, about the training that had rewired her brain to see threats and targets instead of people. Maybe I'm already like you, she said quietly. No, young Chul said. You're not. You still have a choice. You can still walk away. I don't want to walk away. Then what do you want? Lisa looked out at the mountains, at the morning light turning everything gold. I want Volkov dead. I want everyone like him dead. I want to build a world where people like me don't have to be afraid of people like him. That's a war that will never end. Then I'll fight it forever, Lisa said. She turned to face him. You asked me once what I wanted. I want power, not the kind that Martin had. Cheap, cowardly, built on using other people. I want the kind of power that means no one can touch me ever again. The kind that makes monsters think twice before they try to take what's mine. Young Chul studied her face. You're changing. You know that, right? You're becoming something different from who you were. Good, Lisa said. The woman I was got sold for $50,000. Or the woman I'm becoming is worth a lot more than that. A knock at the door interrupted them. Min-jun stepped inside, his face grim. We have a problem, he said. What now? Young Chul asked. Min-jun hesitated, and in that hesitation, Lisa saw something that made her blood run cold. Jiwoo just sent a message, Min-jun said slowly. He wants to meet, says he has information about Volkov's operation, says he wants to help. It's a trap, Lisa said immediately. Maybe, Min-jun agreed. Or maybe he's realized that Volkov is going to turn on him eventually too. Maybe he wants to switch sides before it's too late. Young Chul stood and walked to the window, looking out at the forest. Where does he want to meet? His club. Tonight. He says come alone or the deal's off. Absolutely not, Lisa said. You just said it's probably a trap. Probably, young Chul said. But if there's even a chance Jiwoo has information we can use, we have to take it. Then I'm coming with you. Young Chul shook his head. You're staying here. This time, that's not negotiable. Lisa started to argue, but young Chul held up his hand. If something happens to me, you're the only one Volkov wants. That makes you the only leverage my people will have. You need to stay alive. You need to stay hidden. That's an order. Lisa wanted to scream, wanted to refuse, but she saw the logic in what he was saying, even if she hated it. When do you leave?" she asked. 2 hours, young Chul said. He turned to Min-jun. "Get everyone ready. I want 2 teams. One with me, one staying here to protect Lisa." Min-jun nodded and left. Young Chul walked back to Lisa and took her hands in his. "If I don't come back—" "Don't," Lisa said. "Don't say that." "If I don't come back," young Chul continued, "Min-jun has instructions. He'll get you out of the country. You'll have enough money to disappear completely. You can start over somewhere Volkov will never find you." "I'm not running." "Then stay and fight," young Chul said. "Build that world you talked about. Just do it without me." He kissed her forehead, and Lisa closed her eyes, memorizing the feeling, the warmth, the certainty. "Come back," she whispered. "I'll try," young Chul said. And then he was gone. Lisa spent the next 4 hours in a state of suspended anxiety. She cleaned her weapons, checked her ammunition, and paced the small living room while young Chul's men watched her with sympathetic eyes. Min-jun stayed in the kitchen, monitoring communications, coordinating with the team that had gone with young Chul. Every few minutes, Lisa would walk over and ask for an update. "They're at the club," Min-jun would say. "Meetings started. No problems yet." Yet. That word did all the heavy lifting. Another hour passed, then another. Lisa's phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. "Hello?" "Lisa!" It was Jiwoo's voice, smooth, calm. "I'm so glad you answered." Lisa's blood went cold. "Where is he?" "Young Chul. He's here with me. We're having a lovely conversation. He's very concerned about you. Keeps checking his phone, wondering if you're safe. If you hurt him—" "Oh, I'm not going to hurt him," Jiwoo said. "Volkov is, in about 30 seconds. Lisa heard young Chul shout in the background, heard gunfire, and heard the sound of chaos erupting through the phone. "You set him up," Lisa said, her voice barely a whisper. "I chose the winning side," Jiwoo said. "Volkov is the future, young Chul is the past, and you, my dear, are the prize. Volkov wants you very badly, badly enough that he's willing to split young Chul's entire territory with me. All I had to do was deliver young Chul to him." More gunfire, more shouting. Lisa heard young Chul yelling orders, heard his men returning fire. "Here's what's going to happen," Jiwoo continued, his voice pleasant, conversational. "Young Chul is going to die in the next few minutes." Lisa looked at Min-jun, who was already on his feet, already pulling his weapon. "You have 2 choices," Jiwoo said. "You can run, and Volkov will hunt you forever. Or you can surrender. Hoi, come to me, and I'll make sure you're treated well. I can convince Volkov that you're more valuable alive than dead. But you have to decide right now." Through the phone, Lisa heard an explosion, heard young Chul scream, and then the line went dead. Lisa stood frozen, the phone still pressed to her ear, her mind racing through possibilities and probabilities and the cold arithmetic of survival. Min-jun grabbed her arm. "We need to go. Now." "How long until Volkov gets here? If Jiwoo's telling the truth, 20 minutes, maybe less." Lisa looked around the safe house. 4 of young Chul's men, including Min-jun, against however many Volkov was bringing. The math didn't work. "We can't win this fight," she said. "No," Min-jun agreed. "We can't, but we can get you out. There's an emergency exit through the basement. It leads to the forest. We can lose them in the trees." Lisa thought about running. About disappearing into the forest while young Chul died in some club across the city. About spending the rest of her life looking over her shoulder, waiting for Volkov to find her. She thought about the woman in the bathroom mirror 3 months ago, trembling and terrified, sending desperate messages. She thought about the gun in her holster and the training that had taught her how to use it, and she made a decision. No, Lisa said. Min-jun stared at her. What? I'm not running. If Volkov wants me, he can come get me, but he's going to have to work for it. Lisa, that's insane. We're outnumbered. We're outgunned. We have the high ground, Lisa said, her voice steady. We have defensive positions. We have 20 minutes to prepare, and we have something Volkov doesn't have. What's that? Lisa smiled, and it was the coldest expression she had ever worn. We have nothing left to lose. Min-jun studied her face for a long moment. Then he nodded. All right. Well, what do you want to do? Lisa walked to the weapons cabinet and started pulling out everything they had. Rifles, grenades, ammunition. She laid it all out on the table like a surgical array. We turn this safe house into a kill box, she said. We make it so expensive to take me that Volkov starts to wonder if I'm worth it. And if we're lucky, we hold out long enough for reinforcements to arrive. What reinforcements? Min-jun asked. Young Chul's team is with him. Or was. Lisa pulled out her phone and started making calls. To people she had met over the past 3 months. Business associates. Allies. People who owed young Chul favors. Some of them answered. Some of them didn't. But enough did. Enough said they would come. Enough said they weren't ready to let Volkov take over the city without a fight. 20 minutes. They spent it turning the safe house into a fortress. Windows barricaded, doors reinforced, fields of fire established. So tripwires and improvised explosives scattered across the approaches. Lisa changed into tactical gear, strapped on body armor, and checked her weapons one final time. Her hands were steady. Her mind was clear. The fear was still there. She could feel it like a heartbeat in her chest. But it wasn't controlling her anymore. She was controlling it. They're coming, one of young Chul's men said from his position at the window. 6 vehicles, maybe 30 men. The math still didn't work. I'm 5 against 30. Even with defensive positions, even with preparation, the odds were impossible. But Lisa had learned something in the past 3 months. The odds didn't matter. The only thing that mattered was will. The determination to keep fighting even when logic said you should surrender. Martin had taught her that losing was a choice. She refused to choose it. The first vehicle crashed through the gate at exactly 20 minutes. Volkov's men poured out, or spreading across the property with military precision. They were professionals, trained, experienced. Lisa let them get halfway to the house before she gave the signal. The first tripwire detonated, and 3 men disappeared in a ball of fire. The rest dove for cover, returning fire blindly. Lisa and Min-jun opened up from the 2nd floor, picking targets with careful precision. 2 more men went down, then 3. The attackers regrouped, calling for support, advancing more carefully now. And they reached the house and blew the front door off its hinges. Smoke grenades rolled inside, filling the 1st floor with choking clouds. Lisa heard boots on the stairs and squeezed the trigger, firing down through the smoke, hearing screams that meant she'd hit something. But there were too many. They kept coming, flooding the 1st floor, clearing rooms with brutal efficiency. Lisa and Min-jun fell back to the 2nd floor, then to the master bedroom, their last defensive position. The door shuddered under repeated impacts. Wood splintered. Lisa reloaded her rifle and waited. The door exploded inward, and Volkov's men poured through. Lisa fired until her magazine was empty, then drew her sidearm and kept firing. Beside her, Min-jun was doing the same, his face grim, his movements mechanical, and then her gun clicked empty. Lisa reached for a fresh magazine, but hands grabbed her, pulled her down. She fought, kicking and clawing, but there were too many. Now they pinned her to the floor, wrenched her arms behind her back. Across the room, Min-jun was on his knees, bleeding from a dozen wounds, a gun pressed to his head. And then Volkov walked in. He looked exactly the same as he had at the warehouse. Expensive coat, shark smile, scar running down his face. He surveyed the room, at the bodies of his men scattered across the floor, at the blood and smoke and destruction. "Well," he said, that was more expensive than I anticipated." He walked over to Lisa and crouched down, looking at her face. "You have cost me 11 men." 11? Do you know how much it costs to replace 11 trained soldiers? Lisa spat blood at his feet. Volkov laughed. "Spirit, I admire that. Young Chul trained you well." He stood and pulled out his phone. "Let me show you something." He turned the screen toward her. It was a video. Young Chul, tied to a chair, beaten and bloody, but still alive. Jiwoo stood behind him, a gun to his head. "Your boyfriend is still breathing," Volkov said. "For now. Whether he stays that way depends on you." Lisa felt something crack inside her chest, not breaking, hardening. "What do you want?" she asked. "What I've always wanted," Volkov said. "Cooperation. You come with me quietly and young Chul lives. You continue to fight and Jiwoo puts a bullet in his brain. Your choice." Lisa looked at Min-jun. He was still on his knees, still bleeding. But his eyes were clear. He gave her the smallest shake of his head. "Don't do it." She looked back at Volkov. "If I come with you, what happens to me?" "You become part of my organization," Volkov said. "I'll find uses for you. You're smart, capable, well-trained. You could be an asset." "As a slave." "As an employee," Volkov corrected. "I'm not a monster, Lisa. I'm a businessman. You work for me, you do what I say, and you live comfortably. And it's a better deal than Martin offered you." Lisa thought about the church, about the broken phone and the desperate message, about young Chul walking down the aisle and offering her a choice. She thought about the woman she had been 3 months ago and the woman she had become. And then she thought about the gun hidden in her boot, the backup weapon no one had found because they'd assumed she was disarmed. "All right," Lisa said. "I'll come with you." Volkov smiled. "Excellent. I knew you were reasonable." He gestured to his men. "Let her up." They hauled her to her feet. Lisa swayed slightly, playing up her exhaustion. Volkov stepped closer, reaching out to touch her face. And Lisa moved. The knife from her boot was in her hand in less than a second. She drove it up under Volkov's jaw, through his tongue, into his brain. His eyes went wide with shock, and then he collapsed, blood pouring from his mouth. For a moment, no one moved. Everyone in the room was frozen, staring at Volkov's body, processing the impossible thing that had just happened. Then all hell broke loose. Volkov's men opened fire. Lisa dove behind a desk as bullets tore through the air where she'd been standing. She heard Min-jun shout, heard him struggling with the man holding him, and then she heard something else, gunfire. From outside, different weapons, different shooters, reinforcements. The cavalry had arrived. Volkov's men turned toward the new threat, and in that moment of confusion, Lisa lunged for the rifle of the man nearest her. She ripped it from his hands and shot him in the chest, then pivoted and shot the man behind him. The room dissolved into chaos. Min-jun broke free from his captor and retrieved his weapon. Together they fought their way toward the door, toward the stairs, toward freedom. They burst out of the safe house into the gray morning light and found young Chul's allies engaged in a firefight with Volkov's remaining men. More vehicles were arriving, reinforcements from both sides, an escalating war that was going to consume everyone if it didn't end soon. Lisa ran for the nearest vehicle, Min-jun beside her. They were almost there when she heard the voice behind her. "Lisa!" She turned. Jiwoo was standing in the doorway of the safe house, his suit pristine, his gun raised, and beside him, beaten and bloody but still standing, was young Chul. He was alive. "Surprise," Jiwoo said. "Did you really think I'd let Volkov kill him? He's worth far more alive. And now, with Volkov dead and his organization in chaos, there's a power vacuum. One I intend to fill. He pressed the gun against young Chul's temple. Here's the new deal. You come with me, Lisa, or I kill young Chul right now. And this time, I mean it. Lisa looked at young Chul. Their eyes met across the distance, and she saw everything in his face. Pain, exhaustion, and something else. Pride. He was proud of her. Proud of what she'd become. She looked at the gun in her hands, at Jiwoo standing in the doorway with his ultimatum, at Volkov's body somewhere in the house behind him. She thought about choices, about the fact that she'd been given so few of them in her life, and how every single time she'd been forced to choose, someone had tried to take her agency away. Not this time. No, Lisa said. Jiwoo's expression flickered with surprise. No? I'm done negotiating, Lisa said. I'm done with men pointing guns at people I care about and demanding I make choices. You want to kill young Chul? Kill him. But understand that if you do, I will spend the rest of my life hunting you. I will take everything you have, everyone you love, and I will burn it all to the ground. That's not a threat. That's a promise. She raised her rifle, aiming it at Jiwoo's head. Around her, young Chul's men did the same. 12 guns, all pointed at one man. Your choice, Lisa said. Jiwoo looked at her, looked at the guns, looked at young Chul, whose face was unreadable, and then slowly he lowered his weapon. Smart move, Lisa said. She gestured to Minjun. Take him. Minjun and 2 other men moved forward, disarming Jiwoo and pulling him away from young Chul. Young Chul stumbled forward, and Lisa caught him, her arms around him, holding him up. You're alive, she whispered. So are you, young Chul said, and there was wonder in his voice. How you killed Volkov. Yes. You turned his own trap against him. Yes. Young Chul pulled back to look at her face. You've changed. I know, Lisa said. Is that a problem? Young Chul smiled, and it was sad and proud and somehow gentle. No, I think you're exactly who you need to be. Around them, the gunfire was dying down. Volkov's men were surrendering or fleeing. The reinforcements were securing the perimeter. The war, for now, was over. But Lisa knew it wasn't really over. And it would never be over. Because she'd crossed a line tonight that couldn't be uncrossed. She'd killed a man with her own hands, had looked him in the eye and driven a knife into his brain. And she didn't feel empty. She felt powerful. What happens now? Young Chul asked. Lisa looked at Jiwoo being dragged toward one of the vehicles, looked at the safe house, still smoldering from the battle, looked at the bodies scattered across the property, the price of her freedom measured in blood. Now we rebuild, she said. We take Volkov's territory. We consolidate power. We make sure everyone knows what happens when they try to take what's ours. And Jiwoo? Lisa's expression went cold. Jiwoo betrayed you, sold you to Volkov, nearly got both of us killed. What do you think should happen to him? Young Chul was quiet for a moment. Then, he was my ally for 10 years. Before tonight, I would have said he was my friend. Before tonight. You didn't know he was a traitor. No, young Chul agreed. I didn't. He looked at Lisa. What would you do if the choice was yours? Lisa thought about Martin in a prison in Taiwan, about Volkov bleeding out on the floor above them, about the fact that mercy was a luxury she could no longer afford. I'd make an example of him, she said. I'd make sure everyone in this city knows what happens when you betray us. I'd make them fear you so much they'd never dare try again. Young Chul studied her face. You've become ruthless. I've become realistic, Lisa corrected. In your world, our world, mercy is weakness. Forgiveness is death. If we don't make Jiwoo pay, every other ally you have will start wondering if they can betray you too. She met his eyes. You asked me what I wanted. I want power, but not just for myself. I want us to be so strong, so feared, that no one ever tries to sell either of us again. And if that means being ruthless, then I'll be ruthless. Young Chul reached out and touched her face gently. I brought you into this world to save you, but I think I created a monster. No, Lisa said. Martin created a victim. You gave her the tools to become a survivor. What happens next is on me. She turned and walked toward the vehicle where Jiwoo was being held. Young Chul followed. And together they stood looking at the man who had betrayed them. Jiwoo met their eyes, and Lisa saw the fear there, the understanding that his calculations had failed, that he'd bet on the wrong side. Please, he said, we can make a deal. I have resources, information. I can still be useful to you. You were useful, Lisa said. Past tense. She pulled out her gun and pointed it at his head. Jiwoo's eyes went wide. Young Chul, please. Tell her. Tell her I don't deserve this. Young Chul was silent for a long moment. Then, you're right. You don't deserve a quick death. He looked at Lisa. But that's not your choice to make. Lisa lowered the gun. What do you mean? Jiwoo betrayed me, Young Chul said. That makes it my decision, not yours. He pulled out his own weapon and aimed it at Jiwoo. You wanted to build a world where you have power. Real power means making the hard choices yourself, and not delegating them to others. He fired 3 times. Jiwoo's body slumped forward. Young Chul lowered the gun and turned to Lisa. Power isn't just being willing to kill. It's being willing to live with what you've done afterward, to carry that weight and not let it break you. Can you do that? Lisa looked at Jiwoo's body, felt the weight of Volkov's death settling on her shoulders, thought about the line she'd crossed and the darkness waiting on the other side. I don't know, she said honestly, but I'm going to try. Young Chul nodded. Then let's go home. They returned to the penthouse 3 days later, after the police had finished their investigation and the bodies had been cleared and the news media had moved on to other stories. The official narrative was a gang war between rival factions, nothing to do with young Chul or his organization. Money and influence had made the truth disappear. Now Lisa stood at the window, the one that had been shot through, now replaced with bulletproof glass, and looked out at the city. It looked exactly the same as it had before. The same buildings, the same streets, the same people going about their lives, completely unaware of the war that had been fought over their heads. But Lisa had changed. She could feel it in the way she moved, the way she thought, the way she looked at the world. The woman who had stood at the altar 3 months ago was gone. Then what had replaced her was something harder, sharper, more dangerous. Young Chul found her there. He'd been recovering from his injuries, but he was walking now, moving carefully but steadily. We got a message, he said, from Moscow. Lisa turned. Volkov's people? Yes, they want to negotiate a truce. They're willing to cede his territory here in exchange for safe passage back to Russia. Are you going to let them? Young Chul was quiet for a moment. What do you think I should do? Lisa thought about it. I think you should make them pay for what Volkov tried to do. Take the territory and make them fight for safe passage. Show them that attacking you has consequences. That will start another war. Let it, Lisa said. We just won one. We can win another. Young Chul smiled. You really have changed. Is that a problem? I don't know yet, Young Chul said honestly. I saved you because I didn't want you to become like me. But I think I made you into something worse. Or better, Lisa said. Depends on your perspective. Young Chul walked to the window and stood beside her. Do you regret it? Any of it? Lisa thought about the question, about Martin and Volkov and Jiwoo, about the men who had died fighting for her freedom, about the knife she'd driven into Volkov's brain and the way it had felt. Not good, not satisfying, but necessary. "No," she said. "I don't regret it. Not even killing Volkov?" "Especially not that," Lisa said. "He thought he owned me. I proved him wrong. That's not something to regret." Young Chul nodded slowly. "Then what happens now? We've won. Volkov's dead. Jiwoo's dead. Martin's in prison. You're free." "Am I?" Lisa asked. "Or am I just trapped in a different cage, one I built myself?" "That's the question, isn't it?" Young Chul said. "You wanted power, now you have it. And the question is what you're going to do with it." Before Lisa could answer, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Again. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. "Hello?" "Lisa." The voice was female, accented, cold. "My name is Anya Volkov. Alexei was my brother." Lisa's blood went cold. "I'm told you killed him," Anya continued. "Drove a knife into his brain while he was trying to negotiate with you. Is that true?" Lisa didn't answer. "I'll take your silence as confirmation," Anya said. "I want you to know something. My brother was arrogant, careless. He underestimated you and it cost him his life. I won't make the same mistake." "What do you want?" Lisa asked. "What my brother wanted, what he paid for, you." Anya's voice was soft, almost gentle. "But I'm not going to try to take you by force. I'm not going to threaten people you care about. I'm going to do something much worse." "What's that?" "I'm going to give you a choice," Anya said. "In exactly 1 week, I'm going to leak evidence to the police that connects young Chul to every crime he's ever committed. Murder, trafficking, extortion, all of it. He'll spend the rest of his life in prison. Unless..." Lisa's hand tightened on the phone. "Unless what?" "Unless you come to me voluntarily," Anya said. "Turn yourself over and I'll make the evidence disappear. Young Chul stays free, and his organization stays intact. Everything goes back to normal. And if I refuse, then the man who saved you will rot in a cell for the rest of his life," Anya said. "And it will be your fault, your choice. Sleep well, Lisa." The line went dead. Lisa stood frozen, the phone still pressed to her ear, her mind racing. Young Chul was looking at her. What was that? Lisa lowered the phone slowly. "That was Volkov's sister. She's giving me a choice." "What kind of choice?" Lisa told him. "And everything. The threat, the ultimatum, the weak deadline." When she finished, young Chul was silent for a long moment. Then he said, "Don't do it." "If I don't..." "I've been to prison before," young Chul said. "I survived it then. I'll survive it now." "Not this time," Lisa said. "Not with the kind of evidence she's talking about. They'll throw away the key." "Then let them," young Chul said. "You fought too hard for your freedom to give it away now. Don't let her take that from you." Lisa looked at him, at the man who had walked into her wedding and offered her a way out, the man who had trained her, protected her, given her the tools to become powerful, the man she was probably in love with, though neither of them had ever said the words. "I have a week to decide," she said. "You've already decided," young Chul said quietly. "I can see it in your eyes. And you're going to try to save me." "Shouldn't I?" "Not at the cost of your own freedom," young Chul said. "That's not what I saved you for." Lisa turned back to the window. The city glittered below them, beautiful and dangerous and utterly indifferent to their fate. "You asked me what happens now," Lisa said. "I think I'm about to find out." Behind her, young Chul said nothing, because they both knew what was coming. Another war, another choice, another line to cross. And this time, There would be no going back. Lisa's phone buzzed again. A text message from the unknown number. 2 words. "The clock starts now." Lisa looked at young Chul's reflection in the window, saw the fear in his eyes. Not for himself, for her. And she made a decision. "We're not giving her what she wants," Lisa said. "We're going to find this Anya Volkov and we're going to end this. Permanently." "How?" Lisa smiled, and it was the coldest expression she had ever worn. "By becoming exactly what she fears. By showing her that when you come after us, you don't just lose, you die." She turned to face him. "You made me into a weapon. Now let me use it." Young Chul studied her face for a long moment. Then he nodded. "All right," he said. "Let's go to war." And somewhere in the city below them, Anya Volkov received a message on her own phone. From Lisa. 3 words. "Come and get me."